Good evening. Tonight is October 26, 2022, and this is the special meeting of the Concord School Board for a public hearing and to finalize the fiscal year 23 budget. To start off, Ms. Cannon, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Ms. Higgins.
Here.
Mr. Cotton.
Here.
Mr. Parker.
I'm here.
Ms. Walsh.
Here.
Mr. Weinberg.
Here.
Ms. West.
Here.
Mr. Richards.
Here.
And I am here.
Very good. We have 8 members present. Ms. Hastings is excused. She's not here tonight. So we have a quorum. And with that, we will move on to the first item in our agenda is budget finalization. Superintendent, will Mr. Dunn be handling this?
Mr. Dunn is going to lead us through this.
Mr.
Yep.
Dunn,
Hopefully
it's all yours.
We'll work through this for you so you can have your discussion, but just as a quick agenda, we'll look at the history of the meetings. So this is something we do every year. I did a FY23 what if, so if there's not 7 votes in the affirmative for a budget tonight, it will go to your default, which was from March 30th. So the extra revenue, I will show you the implications of that. The Finance Committee, what was presented to them, they come out of there with a 2-2, so there's no formal recommendation from Finance. And then we put together an alternative to what we had presented to Finance that might be something that you're interested in. And then any questions, we'll have public comment, and then go into a proposed motion if necessary. We'll let the road.
So he's trying to tunnel their way in, it sounds like, yeah. So.
I know the cleaning guy's here,
The
so
cleaning
he
person.
could be
Okay.
working on the
Just-
carpet. Or
For,
long as it's
for
not
everyone at
very
home, we
large,
can
aggressive
hear
rodent.
the cleaning person upstairs, that's all, so.
Okay. So first thing is just the history of meetings. So this goes back to FY12. This is just the history of when we've met, just to show that this is something that we have done for at least the last 10 years. FY23 what if. So this is the budget that you passed on 3/30. We had estimated in this a projection of city valuation of 0.91 of real growth. I have what the actual is, but I can't tell you what's real and what's market. So in that, the local rate was going to be a $13.41 per thousand, or 7.62, and the state rate was going to go down 25%, down to $1.23, for a total tax rate of $14.64, or a total tax increase of 3.68%. So that was what we had estimated. Now comes a summary of additional revenue. So we called the Department of Revenue and went through each piece that they have received from the Department of Revenue or from DOE or any other sources to say, this is what they're going to alter the numbers, regardless of what you report. This is what they have, and this is what they would plug in our number. So I show you here what we had budgeted and what now we're expecting to get. So as you can see in state adequacy, we're getting an additional $232,130. Embedded in that is this new extraordinary needs grant that this is the first year rollout. I have spoken with the school finance person over there. Most districts are letting it all go back. They are not having a meeting like you. And we can do whatever we want with it. We just have to have the plan in January. But I will tell you this, that money will go down next year. They've already told me there's a $2 million drop in what's expected. The special education aid, so this is based on claims that we submitted. We had budgeted $460, and we're going to get another $359,521. So you'll see in our alternative proposal what we were thinking for that. Number 3 is the education freedom account phase out grant. So this is an extra $22,890, and the sped differential, which is $12,893. And then you have the one-time New Hampshire reimbursement, the employer reimbursement that's coming. So that total is $1.649911 million that would that we're looking to have at a minimum, this appropriated, and we have some other things to discuss as well. Now, what I put together in this what if, I believe, if you do not appropriate it, what would happen? So the budget amount will stay the same because that's the budget you approved, but the revenue you can see on the second phase, the local rate will decrease by $1,649,911, and the state income will go up by $1,649,911. So the result of this would be the city projection came in at 0.84%, or $38,792,18 increase. Okay, I projected 42 million of real growth. That's everything, market and real. Again, I don't know until they put together their numbers and they put the report out to council. So what that would result is instead of a $13.41, it would be $13.07, or a 4.9% increase. The state rate would go down from $1.23 to $1.21, or a 27% decrease. And you'd be looking, instead of $14.64, $14.28, or 1.13% increase.
So just to clarify, Jack, that is if we accept the additional, or that you're saying if we did
If
not?
you don't have 7 votes to do anything, it's going to go. That's what's going to go back to taxpayers.
Okay.
Because that's the revenue that the DOR is going to put on our thing for tax rate setting.
Got it.
If you do not appropriate the money.
Thank
So
you.
I thought you should see what would happen. Okay? So now I'll move on, if it's okay, to the Finance Committee, what we had presented there. And then so in this, we had proposed moving from ESSER to the general fund, 3 positions. The ARPN, the Director of Student and Staff Wellness, and the DEIJ. That was going to be funded from the adequacy and the extraordinary needs grant. We were going to transfer the difference into an instructional trust. Okay. Then for student nursing services and additional transportation needs, we were going to use the special ed trust fund to fund those. Then for the CRTC, a marketing, business, and community program coordinator, we're going to increase tuition because we see the number of students has increased. And we can fund that based on increased revenue. And then AEDs for all schools, they have all been replaced. The old ones have been picked up. And that was $36,875. We were looking to fund that with the one-time money from New Hampshire Retirement. Also fund the walkie-talkies for all schools to be upgraded. Again, that's an up to number. We don't know what that'll look like, but we expect that we'll take all year to put a plan in place for that. We had also proposed 2 10-passenger vans and to pick up the differential if we were to be awarded the grant, the electric buses. And then we also had spoke with the negotiations committee as it relates to the $508,400 to come from the health risk reserve. So that's what we had proposed in that meeting. Let me just see what my next slide is to make sure. And that was the source of all of them, so you can see that they tie out. They had voted 2-2, so there was no formal recommendation from them to the full board. So if you want to discuss that more, you can, or I'll move on to an alternative proposal.
So, does anyone have, thank you, first of all, thank you, Mr. Dunn, for putting all this together. Does anyone have anything to say with regards to the proposed changes or any updates from the Finance Committee from the other evening?
Yeah,
Ms. Walsh.
I was one of the no votes, and I had a couple of issues. One is we were taking money out of trust funds, and then some of the money we had to use this year potentially and have a plan for using, so it didn't make sense for me to take money out of trust funds. I also had concerns about taking 3 positions funded by ESSER and moving them to other one-time funds and not doing it as a holistic look at what positions we want to fund going forward. And on the vans, I just have a question of, I think we need to have a policy discussion as a board about who would be driving these vans. They wouldn't have the same license requirements as our school bus drivers, and what liability that could possibly raise for us, and who we would let drive and how we would control that. So that's where I came down. And I have some alternative thoughts, but I know Jack's also got an alternative proposal
It's up to you,
as well.
however you want to go with it.
Okay. Well, any other discussion from anyone at this point? Go ahead, Ms. West.
Just that, as much as I do understand and respect the idea of looking at the positions from a holistic view, I also do believe that we have been given that information, and that we are aware as a board of what we do need in the district, and I think that those 3 positions should be moved to the general fund.
And my concern is that we're not really moving them to the general fund. We're using other one-time funds to pay for them,
So they would then need to be moved to the general fund.
fund in the next budget.
Right.
So,
Well, if it's a stopgap measure, yeah.
Could you move to the previous slide one more time? Thank you. So it sounds like when we keep talking about these 3 positions, and this might be where the next proposal or motion is going to go, that we're just looking to stratify what we want to recommend at this meeting or how we want to go about. Because we're talking about the ARPN, Director of Student and Staff Wellness, and DIJ, when we're looking at what. Okay.
and those positions are funded in this year's budget just through ESSER funds.
And just so I'm understanding, and the concern is just making sure that those are the positions that we want to fund for the future, rather than in case maybe we wanted to fund some of the coaches or fund other. Is that some of the concerns that I'm hearing?
My personal view is that I think we should look at all of the positions
Okay.
we're funding through ESSER together, and these may be the 3 that rise to the top, but I think that should be a board discussion and decision.
Got it. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Cannon.
I guess my thought is, at this point, if we move them from ESSER to the general fund, even though we're using one-time money, the ESSER funds were one-time money. This is one-time money. We haven't made any commitment to raising the actual base of that money through raising the budget. Whether they're ESSER funds, or whether they're these one-time funds, they still are not in the bottom line, so to speak, of the general fund. So I don't see how it really makes a difference. We've kicked this down the road. We haven't really made a decision one way or the other. We've just kicked this down the road. My concern is that if we don't vote to encumber the one-time funds, then it goes back. And I don't want to go back, and that's going to sound bad because it does affect the tax rate, but what I don't want is to lower the tax rate now because we are not utilizing these one-time funds, and then next year have double-digit increases to make up for it.
And I agree with you. I would, and based on, the other presentation we had at the Finance Committee meeting was on what our health insurance rates are going to look like next year, and it is going to be a significant increase. And I would like to see us put more into our reserves so that we can look at these positions next year. We can sort of even out anything we need to even out as we go forward.
So you would be for leaving these ESSER funded and then taking the one-time funds? I don't know whether we can use the one-time funds to put into a trust
The retirement
for-
funds we can use to
for
put into a
next
trust.
years.
We did check on that.
Insurance
We
It's
did
officer.
called
check
school
on that.
finance. You
Yeah.
can do what you want with it.
Okay, I'm just trying
We
to.
just found that out. No, you're
Yeah,
right.
okay.
Yeah.
So I don't think it really matters whether we
I said
use
that.
ESSER funds or one-time funds to fund these positions. We haven't, by definition, put them into the bottom line of the general fund.
But we were swapping out, taking from, in the original plan, we were taking money out of like the special education trust fund and things like that. I would just prefer to see us put money in, and the health reserve trust fund.
But I think, sorry, and
So-
if
No,
someone else wants
please,
to jump
go
in,
ahead.
but I think when we say we're taking money out of the special education trust fund, that's always up to and including the amount that we need. We don't take it out if we don't need it. And oftentimes, at the end of the year, we're putting money back into that. So it's not so much, well,
Well, except,
it's trying to balance double entry bookkeeping as far as I'm concerned, which,
but we have money, we were both taking money out of the trust fund and then putting other money in there, and I think we should be going the opposite direction. But, yeah, so.
yeah, I just,
All right, go ahead, Mr. Cotton.
I think I'd like to hear the alternative. I mean, I voted in
Yep.
favor of taking it out and moving it to the general fund, but given what was just said about it really doesn't matter, I think we ought to listen to the alternative and then make a decision.
Okay. I would personally like to weigh in and just say that, you've all heard, I've said many times about the fact that ESSER funds go away and those positions go away unless we make a decision on an upcoming budget. And I think that's going to be, a challenge that we'll face in the upcoming budgets. The next board will face that. And I am concerned that if we take these out of ESSER and move them to a general fund, that these now become kind of obscured, and they become, because when we review budgets, we talk about new positions. Well, then these would no longer be new positions. So we're kind of hiding these, and I don't feel comfortable with that. I think I'd rather put it into a trust and then make that decision when we have, we're going to have tutors and we're going to have several other positions come up that we're going to have to make hard decisions on. And I'd like that included in that. At least that's my personal view of it, seeing how the funds are not going to be lost. They're going to be encumbered in a trust. And whether it's put some in, take some out, or just not take some out, or however financially and accounting-wise is appropriate to do that, I think the ultimate thing is that I prefer these in a trust, and then us make a decision at the upcoming budget that'll decide these.
I also
Go ahead,
think
Miss.
I agree with Pam's comment that this is an instructional committee meeting all by itself, looking at all of our ESSER funded positions.
Right,
and-
we're ready to do that,
Yeah,
we've gone through them.
and then what hierarchy of the ones that have either been the most successful or have the greatest need, and then look at that. I think that's a really, we'll make better financial decisions if we have a better handle on what we're keeping and what we're not.
Can I just, Jack, can you
Sure.
tell me, and remind me, because we've talked about this, the second year of the retirement gives us a reduction in the percentage that we're paying for teachers, so that money is coming back the second year, so it's not like this retirement 7.5% we got this year is a one-time, because we're gonna get, the following years, we're gonna get a reduction.
Well, what I'm looking at is I'm gonna see health go up and retirement go down.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna offset.
Okay.
That's what I think.
What kind of money is it? Do you-
About 820,000.
Yeah, okay.
So I think,
Just, I'm not
Yeah.
trying to, I'm
No,
just trying to give you
appreciate it.
all
I'm
the
expecting a rate
numbers.
increase between 8.5% and 9%
Yeah,
on
it was
health.
a pretty good chunk.
Appreciate that, and I don't like creating positions where the public doesn't really get a clear view to have input on a public hearing. Whether or not they have input or come to choose to give us input or not is different. I'd like to see this in the budget when people are paying attention to our public hearings, so, to be fully transparent. Mr. White.
Before we get into the conversation, I just have some other questions
Sure.
before we go in a different direction.
sorry, gentlemen, before you jump into another direction, Dave, do you have a thing on this?
Well,
Maybe
just
we're trying to-
just that,
Before you go,
I agree. I would prefer to
Sorry,
finish
just
this
finish
topic
the-
before we jump into
Sorry.
new topics.
just that ESSER funds, as I understand, were money that was sort of a one-shot deal in responding to the pandemic. Am I wrong with that? So it doesn't surprise me that transportation needs, because we're driving so many more kids, and nursing services and maybe walkie-talkies, given the safety that we're talking about in schools. I mean, I think that I'm not sure I understand all the economics of this, but I can see why taking those funds and putting them in those areas would be necessary. I mean, and so, but I'm not willing to go down through every item or request and, necessarily scrutinize it, pick and choose, but, but I think I can understand, and I've said from sort of the beginning that we need to be very transparent about what positions we're putting in place and how long do we expect them to be there, because we shouldn't saddle the taxpayers with all these additional, roles. It's not saddling the taxpayer, but positions, I guess. We have to stay within our budget. So if they're one-time positions, that's fine. I'm sort of agreeing with you, I guess, somebody.
Frankly, David, these aren't one-time positions. Sorry.
No, okay, but
Sorry.
no, I see that. I see that it's,
Those positions, those three positions were positions that, we've found to be really important, whether there's a pandemic or not. And so I think I would support those positions as long-term and not just we started them out in ESSER to get them in, review their value, the impact they have on the work, so.
okay.
But I hear your point, that a lot of the positions in ESSER though, Dave, you were absolutely right, they were one-time.
Well, I wouldn't see that a principal would be one time.
And a lot of districts did not put money into positions. They put money into, windows and doors and
Right.
things like that, where we made the decision to try to put the money in to support kids. And that was, we knew when we did that there was a cliff and we were gonna jump off of it, but, we were making an effort to support our kids.
Oh, I understand. Well,
So, just as a clarifying point for people who are maybe watching at home or remotely, is we put them into positions that supported kids. However, we did designate some money for things like HVAC and those type of things as well. We made a decision to balance those items. And I think the board felt it's a good decision, but yeah, we're coming to the end of that. I'm not going to say anything on these three positions right now, but if we come into a budget next year and we are deciding between these three positions and three that we'd have to eliminate or tax rates that we'd have to increase, that'll be a decision for that particular board in that time.
No, I understand that.
So, okay. Mr. Weinberg, you are very patient, so thank you.
No worries. So for the CRTC line item for 92,000, the CRTC is self-sustaining, right? So that wouldn't necessarily
More than
be
self-sustaining.
They're more than okay.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Only program that is.
while we're appropriating funds there now, that's not necessarily something that would be.
Yeah,
felt.
so, I don't know how to shut this thing off, but, yeah, what happened was I'm gonna try to hit something, hopefully it just don't start, I upgraded and it shut off my, there, maybe that'll do it. It shut off my vibrate and turned to ding. Anyway, yeah, CRTC had budgeted, and again, the new director inherited that budget, 400 kids. All right, that's sending school kids. We're easily surpassing that. And I know there's more than enough revenue. Part of what's starting to happen now, I spent 3 hours with her last night going over these things. Kathleen has spent time with Ann. And part of it is the programming and catalogs are all being developed now to recruit for next year. And it's her and one other person right now who's a program coordinator, but they deal with other things, not the marketing, business, and community. And the ideal person will have that marketing background to do it.
Got it. And so then that would be kind of encumbered within the revenue already within the
Yep,
series.
I'm raising the
Got it.
CRTC revenue by that much, and
Okay.
your expenses going up. So none of these impact the tax rate that I showed you.
Perfect. And then could you go to the slide before once
Yeah.
as well?
No? The
No.
next one you mean?
Maybe,
That-
yeah, maybe
that-
there's one more before?
No, I only have,
Oh, man, no, maybe-
back.
For the where it says expected, I guess.
Oh, the what if?
The what if. So for the
That's this.
are all the expected funds that we're anticipating to come, do we believe they will all come at that exact amount? Have we heard from like?
They're the numbers I got from DRA.
Okay,
Now, I will
DRA.
tell you this, some of them have given me a range. One is
Okay.
at like a couple $100, one's little. I
But
just
it's
went with
nothing
the most
sensitive.
conservative. So, well, I should say probably not the most conservative. So, like the one that's 819 could be as high as 834. So if it comes in at 834, an extra 20, what is it? 13 grand is going towards
Got it.
the tax rate. It's going to lower it.
Got it.
So that's what I did.
And then for
I will tell you this: our whole office, the person that I work with, manager, this is her first time doing it. Not first time. She worked on the city side for 16 years. DRA, all new people.
got it.
Department of Nutrition, all new people. This is like all real time. It's a lot
And for
trying to get here.
and for the phase out, that is for if students are applying for Friedman counts, you said, and then it's part of the hold harmless where
Yeah.
schools are being reimbursed.
Yeah.
And
So we don't budget that, and that's what they told us we're going to get. So we figured,
Is that for the second year or third year? Do we know?
I don't know.
No, don't know.
I
Okay.
don't know specifically.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Oop. Is that it for that, what was proposed
Yeah.
to finance? Sure. And then I'll go to the alternative. I want to just highlight one thing. The DEIJ is only, remember, half funded in ESSER because it was supposed to be split with another district, and that's not happening. So we'll need to account for that or find it in ESSER. And as I mentioned to the Finance Committee, part of the things we're looking at as the numbers are coming in for the HVAC, having enough to do that whole job. So there'll be more to that as the numbers are fully developed. All right, I will move over to the alternative plan, if that's okay. So this one I tried to make, I handed this one out. I was gonna go back and reformat the first one, but I wanted to see what the Finance Committee saw. So this one, I tried to tie them together. So if you wanna rip them apart, you can. First one shows you the revenue coming in, and the number to the left of the description matches what the expense is. So for example, if you look on the first screen, it says state adequacy. The amount is $232,130. When you look on the position, if you take the DEIJ salary and the transfer to the instructional trust, they total $232,130. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So I've tried to make it a little easier to follow than that first presentation. I always like to overanalyze these things. When I get done, I'm like, I don't like the way that's looking. So the extraordinary needs grant in this proposal, we'll put it all into the, proposed as a placeholder to transfer it. So you can decide later what you want to do with it. So nothing gets spent. For the school nursing services and the transportation needs, we would encumber that additional $359,000 that we found out from DRA that we're getting for special education aid. Instead of kicking out of the special education trust fund, we'll use that money that's coming in. Okay? Then for number 3, that extra phase-out money, put it into instructional.
Instructional trust.
Yeah, the instructional trust. Number 4, the special education trust, because that's what it's for. The phase out, they think education better somewhere else. That's why, that was the logic for that. The AEDs and the walkie-talkies, we would just look to fund those out of the one-time New Hampshire retirement money, put the difference into the school building maintenance fund. And that totals your $513,935. Number 6 is the health risk reserve. That is for the purpose of one-shot negotiations. The CRTC marketing business community, that's what we had mentioned earlier as it relates to having enough revenue to do that. And then in speaking with the director, you have approved in your budget up to $125,000 to come out, and that is their capital reserve to make improvements to the program. So whether they're buying lifts or printers or anything to do to improve that, based on escalation, breakage, inflation, she was talking to me and said, next year I think I might request a little bit more. I said, if there are things you feel that program needs now, give me that list while I'm coming to the board, and let's try to get that stuff sorted out. If you need another lift for automotive, then let's not wait, because the prices just keep going up. So she had asked for 25,000 and gave me a list of things. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to do it, because again, it doesn't affect the tax rate. They got 710,000 sitting in that reserve, and there are funds that are collected from sending districts. That's their capital fee, and it all goes in there. You vote to put money in this budget, 196 to go in, and you have right now 125. We're looking at to be 150. And then that's it. So your 2,275,692 equals 2,275,692 on the first page.
Jeff,
That's
you said you had information on what the actual assessed value growth is for this city?
no, I don't.
Oh, I thought you said you had gotten it.
No, when they put the letter together, we'll send it all out to you, and then we'll have them come in and talk. They didn't have anything, and that's typical. It's usually not till probably second week in November. They put the letter to council, they CC us on it, and then we put it in your weekly letter. So. So,
Quick question on that.
yeah,
I just want to make sure, on the CRTC capital reserve balance,
Yep.
is that supposed to be a comma or is that a period?
that's common.
That's a comma, okay.
Yeah. There's not $710.
That's what I was wondering.
It's not gasoline.
And is that included in the 1.5 million revenue, or what is the total CRTC budget?
A little over 2.2 million.
2.2?
Yeah.
Okay, so it is included in there, got it. And then year to year for the 125,000 that is allocated for infrastructure changes or such, is that stay consistent year for
Yeah,
year?
typically we run between 110 and 150.
Okay.
It's been more in the lower the last couple of years because of COVID,
Yeah.
you know. But with the inflation costs and some of the stuff they're getting hit with, I thought it kind of made sense to try to take care of this now,
Okay.
so that they can improve that program for the kids.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Ms. Walsh, other questions?
I'm okay with the DIJ position. I guess my question is, I would like to make sure that it is still, I don't know, considered a new position when we have these discussions, that we keep it on our list of one-time funded positions so that we're aware of it.
It will be. We have already copied live into the budget projection because we're starting the 24 budget. So these have already been stripped. Meaning, we will give you a list of everything that would be potentially dropped. And then this is what we're proposing to add as part of the budget process. Because they're
So
one-year
the-
onlys.
The half of, so let's just say $55,000 that was being funded by ESSER, where is that fund going? Where are those funds going?
What is what, sorry?
Well, you said that the DEIJ was
Yeah.
about half funded by ESSER funds
Yeah.
and half otherwise. So, okay, so we're talking about 55,000. So if we're funding this, moving this over to being funded by state adequacy, where does the 55,000 from the ESSER funds go?
It would sit in ESSER.
Sit in ESSER, and what will we use it for?
Well, like I said, the HVAC project is still a concern I have.
Okay.
As those prices continue to escalate, timing, getting it in on time, because remember, this money has to be spent by September of '24.
Right.
So lead time on HVAC systems is 6 to 8 months. We are trying to land this thing to come in April, May, the units. Because I think don't quote me, I think there's 11 units that are coming in. And there's going to be some more things as it relates to that. Electrical upgrades need to happen based on preliminary engineering. So that's what I'm getting more concerned about, because we have spent a lot of money in people. And this is becoming down to the end. And when we go through that grant, what more is there? I mean, right now it's propping us through the year. If something else comes up, the ESSER is there to help support. But as we get to the end,
I know
I
that
worry about that.
we're looking at Beaver Meadow, because they have the same issues at Beaver Meadow. Not to the degree that Broken Ground had with their HVAC, but Matt is looking at Beaver Meadow. So we're beginning to analyze what do they need out there in order to, we'd like to go to the dehumidification process. Now, we don't have another 3 million, but we can begin to start to put together some repairs and some changes over at Beaver Meadow. So I know you're saying, where's 55? That's a great question. Where's that money going to go? Well, we tend to spend it all, but
I guess my ultimate question is, how much of the $2,275,000 go to the taxpayers who are seeing their taxes increase while not having their salaries increase? That's part of our job too.
I don't.
Yeah. No, I'm just asking, because we will make modifications to this as we move along and make those motions and such. So I was just trying to get to where, the money is going that, is involved in all these numbers. Go ahead, Ms. Walsh.
The transportation needs, is that just the special education transportation costs, or is that
Correct.
anything else?
No.
And my second question is related to Mr. Richards' question, which is, right now we're projecting a 3.68% combined tax rate, state and local education.
With the new valuation, it's 3.61.
And what would it be if we, to bring it under 3?
Um, 1% equals about 670-some thousand, so you'd need to probably about 300,000.
And let me follow that up, and because we don't have this, and I don't remember from March, but on a house valuation, you usually provide us this information on a house valuation of, 300,000, I think was the last one you used, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
What is what is 3.61 mean?
$60-some dollars, but let me just take a look. Hold on one second. Where
Take
is
your time. I'm asking a question that's outside of the presentation.
So I usually have that, but we were going deep today. So
That's
this
okay.
is, I'm sorry. Yeah. A $250,000 home is $128. Okay.
Thank you. Other questions?
And that's both state and local,
Yeah.
or only local?
Yeah.
Okay.
Combined. And if you remember, the state took their statewide education tax and dropped it. So, but what I believe they have done now is created this extraordinary needs grant, but they made it more accountability to the number rather than taxing property. That's what I think.
But it could
'Cause
come
the-
back.
Oh, it's perpetual. It is going to come back, but they've already said you're not going to get the same amount you got this year. They've already told me there's a drop in funding.
So they will,
So.
well, interesting definition of adequate education if you're taking out the funding.
Oh, sure. Oh, I totally
but,
agree with you.
And we should revisit our
mean,
discussions on lawsuits, but
Understanding with them, like, so next year you maybe get 425,000 instead of 508. But it is, my understanding from them is written in law that this is something they plan to continue. And they have I think I put in my notes, it's just the first year hiccups because they're just deploying this now. And as I mentioned to you, most districts are just letting it go back.
Okay.
And when you submit your extraordinary needs grant thing on what you did, you could say, we gave it back to taxpayers. Because we had to tell them by the 30th that whether you were gonna, if you weren't gonna take it or not. If you don't, they're assuming you're taking it one way or another, whether you're encumbering it or letting it go back to taxpayers. So, anyway. So I guess the bottom line is, if you want to relieve anything, that's probably not a bad one to let come down because it's going to drop anyway. But at least it's going to come back. I don't think it's going to go 508 to 0. Not in my discussions with the DOE.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you. Other questions? All right. What's next, Mr. Dunn?
Let's see. Let me go to, let me bring up the presentation again. So this slide is representative like that first slide. If in fact you do take that alternative proposal, there's the 2.275 million, it's still the same tax impact because the revenue is either coming in, the state revenue and your trust funds. Everything's still a wash. I just had so you're looking at a 3.61% or a $14.63 per thousand tax rate versus a $14.64 that we had projected. Okay. The only other caveat I put in here, again, all these numbers are moving. I only get what I get. Once they compile everything, they could go back to the city and say, well, we don't like something on the MS1, and that gets adjusted. So it's just an estimate of what we believe it to be. I'll tell you, for the most part, it's pretty accurate. I had 1 year where it was a rounding issue, and a penny tripped it to go from 4.5 something to 4.7 something. But we don't. What you're doing is not setting the tax rate. You're finalizing your budget. Once they put all the numbers together between the city and us, Department of Revenue is the one that finalizes that number. So, I feel pretty good. It's probably going to be about that, but you could see it. 1 penny can swing it.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Dunn. I think that's always a very good, a very important item to point out is that we are setting the budget, and the budget will increase or decrease, but it'll be by a set amount of dollars, regardless of what percent you call it. That set amount of dollars will be passed on to the taxpayers of the city of Concord.
Yep.
And maybe it may seem like a very nice low percentage because their home values have increased on that, but they're not able to realize that increase in home values immediately.
Right.
So that's going to be dollars that will hit their tax bill,
Sure.
or their rents if they're a renter.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why we take this so seriously about making these increases or not making these reductions. So, thank you. Other questions? Nobody has them. So before we go to discussing proposals, this is a public hearing, so we need to have public comment. At this time, I don't see any public comment, but if someone is out there that I'm not seeing that wants to come in and make a comment, please do so. And I don't see anybody here for public comment. So with that, I will close that portion. And we will move on to discussions on motions. So,
Which motion?
well, we can make a motion to appropriate the difference that Jack has presented, $2.5 million and change, right?
Yeah, 2.275, which is
2.275.
62 higher than what we proposed at the Finance Committee meeting.
Right.
The only difference being that has the 25,000 in for the CRTC, and there's a couple other things of one-time money that we weren't aware, the Education Freedom Account and the Special Ed Differential. You take those three, you're pretty much at that number.
So that amount, if we make a proposal to appropriate that, either as described in the original item that was presented to the Finance Committee, appropriated per the alternative that Mr. Dunn has discussed today, or anything else that any other proposal anyone else would like to make, we can do that. And then otherwise, if we make absolutely no changes whatsoever, this evening. That money will, the budget will remain what it was, what we created in March, and tax rate will be adjusted accordingly as it's calculated out. Am I correct, Mr.?
Well, they'll apply the one-time revenue, and then you'll drop by 1.649 million,
Okay.
all one shot,
Okay.
for this year. Again, some of that would come back, but it's not gonna, yeah.
Okay. Ms. Walsh?
I'm just looking at the motion.
Yep.
And the withdrawal from the, sorry, my Long Island accent. Stop at certain moments. From the Facilities and Renovation Trust Fund, I don't know that we've discussed that. Is that new?
No, we did that when you passed the budget. That was the fund. Remember, that was the loan
Okay,
to
so
fund
this
the
is
network
not new.
switching.
That's what I wanted to
I
check.
copied that and then added the stuff that would
Okay.
make this that alternative proposal. Because there's a lot of moving parts. So if you need to adjust, I'm gonna need time to go back through and do it, which I can do. It's just I'm gonna need a little time to make sure. That's why I put that little caveat down the bottom. Board authorized the administration of as long as I have the intent of where you're looking to go. Like you said to me, take it out of the the 508,000 extraordinary needs. We're going to use that to lower taxes. Just get it below 3%, whatever that is. Then I would adjust the numbers to be that. That's all I'm saying.
We, of course, would have to make the decision of how we would adjust that.
Oh yeah. I'm
Proposal.
just using it as an example. But
No.
my purpose of that is you tell me, and then we're going through and I just trying to find out what that priority is because there's a lot of moving parts and doing this on the fly. Sometimes we might find something, and I just need a little tolerance in between to get where it needs to be.
Can you tell me what sort of each 100,000 would mean on a $250,000 house's tax rate? I don't know if you have that formula in there for you.
It is.
200,000?
Yes, that we lowered, but
So for every dollar raises 4.658 million, and a 1% on the 1% increase on the tax rate is 14 cents. So that's 600. What I say, like 660? I thought it was 652 for every 1%. So it's 14 cents per thousand. So you probably need about 350,000 to get below 3%, if that's what you wanted to do.
Jack, so let me do.
I was trying to figure out how to get
What's she
below
want?
100. Well, getting below 100 would be.
I was gonna say, if at 3%, Jack, what would that mean with regards to a $250,000 house?
108.
108.
Yeah. Let's see if that gets below combined.
Thank you.
I'm
Other
sorry, it's a
questions?
305 at 350. So if I take out another 73, 75, still 305. Might have to go to 400. I think that's only 40,000. 2.97.
At 400,000. If we took 400,000 out of this budget, we would be able to add some relief to taxpayers and
Yeah, you'd be at $105.
bring that down.
And again, not knowing what real growth is in market, it's hard to tell. If that was all real, which I doubt, all of it, then it would be, if all, assuming everything stayed the same, that 84 million increase was real growth, but I don't know that. I doubt it, but.
Yes, I would be
Right.
hesitant to say
Yes.
that the
Okay.
value of people's homes didn't go up at all, and new construction has accounted for that whole.
And now last year, your rate, I think, was about 9-point-some% increase in the valuation, 9.97 or 2. It was high, it was very high. So this makes sense that it's somewhat equalizing out. Part of your thing might be next year if assessments go down, then you're gonna start seeing the rate go up, and it's, I dealt with that my first year. So that's the thing in trying to keep it stable, but it's I don't know how you predict it.
That is the tricky part.
It is.
If we leave this as it is, our taxpayers right now will say, you just increased this and we're paying a lot now. If we lower it and then healthcare costs go up, inflationary costs go up,
Salaries
and
are gonna go
value
up. We
of
know
salaries will go up, and value of the homes or the increase in the valuation used to calculate our revenues doesn't go up, then we're going to be looking at a pretty high increase.
Or goes
That's
down.
Right, yeah,
That's-
they're expecting it to
To
be
go
above,
down.
to go down. The assessments,
that. Right.
Yeah, well, I
Should
mean,
go
if
down.
assessments go down,
they should,
You just
because
gotta
we're
make
at the
sure
bubble.
for that.
they should go down, then that's going to just further increase the percentage that we're
Yes.
going to go up.
Right.
So it's going to appear, regardless of our budget, it's going to appear that we're raising taxes really high. And we don't like that yo-yo effect because it really messes with people's budgets, including my own. So, all right. Does anybody have any thoughts or we'll entertain any motions? I keep ending up having to be rebooted here, but.
Jack, can you put the motion back up?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Jack, one more time, what's in the health trust again? What's the total amount you have in there?
2.7 million.
2.7, and I know that you've got a number in there for negotiations, 2.7. So next year, in anticipation of the health cost increases 7%, 8%?
I think it's going to be between 8.5 and 9. So that'll likely, again, wash out the New Hampshire retirement reduction.
The
Because the
deduction,
yeah, the
but
calculation-
you still have a little bit of a buffer by that trust fund.
You
that
do.
health
The only
trust.
problem is they're operating costs. So even if you artificially lower it,
Yeah,
you might be, how do you smooth it out?
Yeah.
They're always tough. Salaries and
I know,
benefits
I
are
know.
tough.
and you never
know.
know how it,
And a lot of that has
I
been
know.
sitting for a bit because when we were self-funded, we needed that. We are still self-funded in the dental, but we're running okay at the moment. But if we need to, that's where we would go for it. So, oh, I'm sorry, it's not, there we go.
it is a good buffer.
Well, I will make the motion to get our discussion official, and we can decide whether we want to amend. I move that the school board adopt a budget for the fiscal year 22-23 in the amount of $104,319.22, with the general fund budget of $98,592.97, appropriating $67,875,100 in local taxes and $5,353,321 in state taxes, inclusive of the following deposits and withdrawals to existing funds or expendable trust funds. Deposits: vocational capital reserve fund for an amount up to $196.96. Facilities and renovation trust fund for an amount up to $1.7 million. Food service fund for an amount up to $80,000. Renovation and maintenance trust fund for an amount up to $85,196. Instructional trust fund for an amount up to $653,445.29. School building maintenance trust fund for an amount up to $350,000. Special education trust fund for an amount up to $12,893, and also inclusive of the following withdrawals from expendable trust funds to fund appropriations: facilities and renovation trust fund for an amount up to $1,220,000, CRT reserve for an amount up to $150,000, health risk reserve trust fund for an amount up to, Mr. Richards, if you just go ahead, $508,400. The board authorizes the administration to adjust the proposed motion to meet the fiscal proposal approved during the October 26, 2022 meeting. If any numbers are adjusted, the administration will present the changes at the November board meeting.
Second. Congratulations.
Thank you for that yeoman's
I
work.
was gonna
Years,
say,
I had to read it.
for those of us who have read this in the past, we appreciate
I'm a little better with
the
money numbers than you,
efforts.
but that's all right. I like your pronunciation.
So, All right.
That is a mouthful.
That is moved, and the motion has been moved and seconded, and at this point, we are open to discussion. The person who made the motion certainly has the right to,
I'm good
First.
for now.
okay?
I need to rest.
Just trying to follow.
Cooling down over here.
Then the person who seconded it, do you have any? All right, then it's open, let's open it for everybody to talk about any changes, any questions, anything with regards to the motion.
You're
Go ahead.
scratching, my bad. For the, and I guess it would be helpful if I had my computer here to put side by side what the other motion was, but where would in the secondary motion, the DEIJ position be on here?
Jonathan, do you want?
No, that's okay. That's okay.
So for this?
Yes.
This endorses the alternative plan I handed you.
Oh, yeah,
which
so
has
that-
the
it
DEI
includes all
Sorry,
that.
I didn't call out the position, but yeah, that's what
This
this
is the
is. I didn't
alternative.
put the finance one in here, and I can copy it in, but.
Oh,
that-
got it. So this is separate.
Yeah, this is a whole new, this represents this.
It does represent that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So, I have a question, Mr. Dunn. So the DEIJ position is in here, however, the ARPN and the Director of Student and Staff Wellness is not in here.
That's correct. They are sitting in ESSER for another year.
Do you have a reason why you chose the DEIJ position as opposed to the other two positions?
I know that there's been a good bit of effort to try to get this position in, and it was trying to chip away at this ESSER because I'm trying to make the cliff not that big, because it's going to be big.
Well, and also because it's only half funded right
Yeah.
now.
Right, that's,
It's a half fund.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So I'll have a question, Mr. Dunn. If we reduced the school building maintenance trust by 200,000 and the instructional trust by 100,000 from this proposal, what effect would that have on items that we are funding right now, as well as what effect would that have on this?
well, the school building aid trust fund, I think, has about 1.2 million in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the instructional trust, I think, is close to $1 million. We've done, remember,
Mm-hmm.
last time this year, you got that additional adequacy. You appropriated it all, and we put it all into savings.
Right.
So we've really significantly raised up those funds, which is helpful. But as you know, with school buildings,
I know that
Things go
that's
bad.
helpful, but I'm questioning whether or not at this point we would reduce those by that 300,000 and then make that adjustment on this budget, since we do have a fair amount in those trusts.
Which ones what did you want to do?
The instructional trust or the school building and maintenance trust?
Would the 508,000 bring instructional to 1.5 million? Or to 1 million?
no, it would bring it up to 1.5 million. So if you chose to do that, we would fill out the extraordinary needs grant paperwork that's due in January to say was used to reduce taxes, and that's all we have to submit, because there's no plan to use it for anything instructional necessarily. That's what
Given
we
the
do.
demands on our school buildings, I'm
Sorry.
given the demands on our school buildings
Mm-hmm.
and the requirements we've had around maintenance of those buildings. I mean, we just got word that we have Matt's looking at a problem over at White Farm in the boiler system. I'm hesitant to mess with that at all and reduce it, if in fact we have some I mean, our buildings are demanding.
My next question, Mr. Dunn, is this budget is for fiscal year 23-24, starting in July.
No, 22-23.
Oh, this is this budget
Yeah,
right here, that's
yeah.
right.
You're
Okay,
finalizing
thank you.
your 23, so this will
Right,
be
sorry,
done
my
June
numbers are
30.
messed
Yeah,
up.
I know.
Looking ahead to 23-24 then, right? With the increases that we are seeing in the cost of fuel
Yeah.
and other materials,
Mm-hmm.
do you have any indication or any idea of what we're looking at for the next budget as far as increases due to inflation?
400,000.
For fuel or just in?
Natural gas and electricity.
That's just that, but
Yeah.
that's not paper and any of the other things. But simply fuel will be at 400,000.
And
at
Esther's
current-
covering it because we have it in there for this year. But, at some point,
But
that's
that
gonna
would be an
stop.
increase added to
And-
our budget coming up
Yeah,
in March when we.
for 24, yeah, because Esther is gonna expire in September, so we're gonna have to start absorbing some of this.
Mm-hmm.
And as you all know, I mean, you probably got the Unitil rate, it's going up from 10 cents to 25. I locked into the supplier at 12.8 cents, so we're safe, but
this
it's
year.
based on,
For this year.
For this year, yeah, for this year. No, I'm sorry, I did 3 years.
3 years?
I did 3 years.
Excellent
I
job,
wanted to
Mr.
take the
Higgins.
risk. I figure
Excellent job, Mr.
too much
Brewer.
unknown, all that's going on, and I sit and have it with the consultant, and we could banter back and forth, and then I'm gonna go with this. And obviously, if it was going to 25 cents, it's double what we locked in for supply charge. So
So for
Thank
thi-
you, Mr. Dunn.
Yes, that was an excellent job.
we
So-
try.
So for this budget,
Mm-hmm.
and in this, and I'm just working through this, okay, when we put the budget, we have 3.6% increase in the tax rate. And when we did this in March, what did we think inflation was going to be for the remainder of the year?
We
And
didn't,
what
so-
is the inflation
Yeah.
playing out to be? That's my,
Well,
see, my
1.5.
concern is, my
Yeah.
concern is, of course, that if we do give this back to the taxpayer, that we will run out of money and just have to hit them very hard next July. And that is not something I want to do.
Well, you have a couple things that are compounding it. You have the end of ESSER, which has built that cliff. You have inflation going on, see when that adjustment is going, and you might be looking at, I think they're projecting a 5 to 10% decrease in the housing values in the next year, I think by next August. So you're gonna have all that hit at one time. And as you said, if you let that rate go down, then it's just gonna look like a bigger lift because the rate's gotta go up to compensate for the decrease in values. If I had a crystal ball and knew what it is, I would tell you. But it's all coming to a head with this federal money, I think, slowing down. I do. And interest rates going up for mortgages. It's all coming to a head.
Okay, thank you. Other questions or discussion?
No, but I do think, Jim, your point's well taken. Everyone's getting hit with inflation now. To assume we're just going to do a 3.6% tax increase, I mean, I almost don't feel like I want to say this, but it's hard to sit here. I mean, we need to repair buildings. We need to support kids. We need to do. But I would just say, at a certain point in time, we talked about scrutinizing some of this stuff maybe a little earlier. We can't have everything, right? So I'm not opposed to the motion, but I feel sometimes that all these things need attention, and to what degree are we providing for them, and to what degree are we asking the taxpayer right now, with everything else going. And I understand. I mean, I remember when you guys put in the boilers instead of first year kindergarten. You get a lot of criticism for that, but you did the right thing, for the taxpayers given the time. I believe so. I don't know. I just think something to pay attention to. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Go ahead, Ms. Walsh, then Ms. Higgins.
What I just wanted to clarify with the superintendent that that if we were to reduce what was going into trust funds, you would prefer we reduce what goes into the instructional trust fund as opposed to the building maintenance trust fund.
That's correct. Given the issues that we have on a daily basis, yes.
I'm just going to make a comment, having done this 12 times or so now. The conundrum always, year after year, and this has nothing to do with the specifics of the numbers. My first year on the board, our budget was $75 million. That's a lot of millions ago, isn't it now? A few wrinkles, a few millions. Is in managing money, do we hold on to money so that we don't have to spike the tax rates? We make so many decisions looking ahead, and you have a taxpayer who's barely making it, who doesn't care to look ahead and wants their money back now. So always we have this conundrum. Do we cut this, cut this, cut this? Look we've lowered it, we're giving you money back. Or do we say, We're keeping it the way it is because in 6 months from now, we don't want to have to come back and say, guess what? It's not an easy decision to make. There's two sides to it. And I'm just pointing out that the conversations are the same year after year after year when it comes to how do we manage other people's money and what do we spend it on? And do we save some to mitigate costs later? Do we give them back money now? 9 million things to think about. We are not a single agenda board at all. And so it gets tricky. That's all.
Thank you. And I'm in that same, been through that same area, but it's even worse now because inflation throws a definite
Right.
wrinkle into all of this. And, I'm looking at this at an increase of 3.61%, but knowing that the inflation is around 6% for annualized for the year. So we are already cutting something out of our budget going forward, de facto, by doing this. Although Jack makes it smaller by getting great energy rates, so and we appreciate that. So. All right. Anything else?
Can we call the question?
There is. I was going to say. At this point, then I would say, are there any amendments to the motion? All right. Not seeing anything. I will call the vote, and I will ask this to be a roll call vote.
Sorry, let me get the microphone. Ms. Higgins,
Aye, yes.
Mr. Cotton,
Aye.
Mr. Parker,
Aye.
Ms. Walsh,
Aye.
Mr. Weinberg,
Aye.
Ms. West,
No.
Mr. Richards,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
Okay. The motion passes. Thank you very much, Mr. Dunn.
That's 7 the affirmative, right?
Yes.
That is.
Then you're good. So we'll plan some things for Finance Committee in the future, especially food service, which I did not even touch tonight because they have come out with awarded us a supply chain amount for issues with the supply chain. So food service has been awarded it. Until I get all those details, I want to sit and do that separately. Okay.
Pardon me. We look forward to hearing about that in the next Finance Committee meeting. So, further items on the agenda.
I don't think I have anything further. Go into the, oops, how did I kick out? I think it's just a. No, that's it. That was the last one.
The last thing that's your side, but on the further items on the agenda, I believe we have a request for a non-public session.
That's correct.
And
Non-public, asking under 91A3C,
People.
rated to a student matter.
okay, then I will make a motion to go into a non-public session pursuant to RSA 91A 3C. Okay. A student matter. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Higgins. This is a roll call vote as well, if you would, Ms. Cannon.
Certainly. Ms. Higgins,
Aye.
Mr. Cotton,
Aye.
Mr. Parker,
Aye.
Ms. Walsh,
Aye.
Mr. Weinberg,
Aye.
Ms. West,
Aye.
Mr. Richards,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
All right, the motion carries. We are in non-public session. Let me tell the people from, that are maybe watching is that we do not anticipate anything occurring in the public session when we come out of non-public, except the adjournment of the meeting. Am I correct, Ms.?
They'll probably seal the
That's
record
correct.
and then adjourn.
We will seal the record, but that'll seal the record of the minutes of that meeting, but no additional board business will be conducted unless someone here is something that I didn't know about. All right, then we're in non-public session and we can allow